and welcome back to Bookish theories. In today's video, we'd like to talk about Tumorowobaitugedor's Good Boy Gone Bad, focusing on a little breakdown and analysis of the lyrics and the music video to see what they can tell us about the concept and its connections to their previous songs. Good Boy Gone Bad is a song co-written by Yeonjun himself that portrays the story of a boy who got his heart broken and has to confront the difficult emotions caused by his first breakup. According to the press release, this is a story that describes the first farewell that a boy experiences during his transition between youth and adulthood, and in the album this period of change is expressed with the concept of Thursday's child. As Subin explained, even if Thursday is in the middle of the week, it sometimes feels like the weekend even if it isn't, so this analogy has been used to convey the idea that Thursday's child is becoming an adult but still has far to go. In the story told in the video, all the members are Thursday's child because in this instance all of them are going through the very first heartbreak of their life. The boy who was once innocent and good is now overcome by anger, hatred and loss, so these feelings fill him up with darkness as the bad boy is born out of this pain. Now in Good Boy Gone Bad, the experience of the breakup is kind of portrayed in an untraditional way, in the sense that instead of just focusing on the sadness of this farewell, they show how multi-layered the heartbreak can be. They feel lost because they believed in a love that ended up being a lie, they feel hatred because they despise the good boy that tried to change himself for their lover, but most of all they feel anger, and this is a rage that transforms them to the point of no return. This is a brutal transition that involves the killing of the good boy for the bad one to be born on the tomb of their love, but as we'll see in a second, this death is not perceived as something negative, but rather as something that finally frees them from their past. Now this is a very interesting concept in and of itself, but in order to understand what they truly mean by that, we actually need to consider some of their previous songs, because Good Boy Gone Bad has a lot of past references both in the lyrics and the music video. You see, as I explained in this video right here, the story told in Thursday's Child can almost be seen as a sequel of sorts to the narrative that they followed in the Chaos chapter. If we compare the You concept of Freeze and the Mess concept of Minnesota 2, you can see that the presents and objects that the boys wanted to give their you are now thrown in the trash after they got dumped by the person they loved. This sad ending is obviously something that breaks their heart, because in 0x1 Love Song, You was a person that saved them from chaos and melted their frozen heart with their light. In Loser Lover, this same individual was also the one that inspired them to fight the society that saw them as losers and escape this reality by flying to forever. Even if this flight was doomed from the start, back then they didn't care as long as they were with you, but now that their lover is gone, their metaphorical downfall essentially kills the boy that they once were, as the new one is born as a result. At the beginning, for instance, the opening sequence shows us Beomgyu getting swallowed up by the trash. When the video cuts to Beomgyu's perspective, this makeshift grave actually turns into a real one, where the 5 bad boys dressed in black look down on the dying body of the good boy. As the good Beomgyu slowly disappears under the trash, the bad Beomgyu looks down on him with a cold expression on his face, so right off the bat, the first 10 seconds already prepared us for what's to come. The good boy is going to die, and the bad boy will be the one to kill him in order to be born. The death of the good boy also overlaps with the death of their lost story, because when the song begins and Beomgyu takes out the trash, the lyrics tell us that they're putting the nail in the coffin over the word forever. Now this very first line already references Yeonjun's verse in Loser Lover, where the boy of the song jumps from the highway to fly to forever with their you. This was a metaphor for the boy escaping the reality that made him a loser in order to find refuge in you who made him a lover, but as I mentioned before, the bad outcome was already decided, because the boy's wings were broken and his fall was unavoidable. Back then, the prospect of diving into their loved one was enough to make them accept this downfall, but now things are very different, because their lover left and they essentially fell into the abyss for nothing. Them getting dumped made them realize how much they changed because of this relationship, and as Taeyeon looks at the ring on his finger, he finally understands how much they actually struggled in the attempt to transform into something that they never were. This is an idea that is very heartbreaking in and of itself, but it actually gets even worse when you realize that this was already happening back in the Dream chapter. Back in Angel or Devil, for instance, the boys wanted to make their crush fall in love with them, and in order to succeed, they made their significant other decide if they wanted an angel or a devil. Whether they preferred a good boy or a bad boy, it was up to their crush to pick a color, and in the English version of Cat and Dog, they actually foreshadowed which one was chosen at the end. In that version of the song, the boys reveal that it's their loved one who gave them a halo, so even if they weren't angels before, their lover transformed them into a good boy. Despite of their best efforts, however, them transforming into this angel wasn't enough to keep their loved one close, because as Yuninkai tells us, they kept getting dumped until the stress killed that side of them that actually cared. As we see in the video, Kai is portrayed carrying flowers like he did back in the U version, but much like what happened in Mess, these flowers are getting trashed because his lover left him again. The good boy that Kai once was is slowly being taken over by his anger and resentment, so even if he admits that his tail used to wag at their loved one, he also says that that's in the past. Once again, this is yet another reference to Cat and Dog, because back in that song they described the puppy love of a boy ready to become their crush's pet in order to get their affection. As we saw in the Mess concept, now this puppy got lost. That's in the past and is not coming back, but as Subin anticipates in the pre-chorus, this new feeling is not so bad after all. You see, if we consider these lyrics in the context of all these callbacks, it makes sense that they perceive the death of the good boy as something freeing, because the good boy was like a persona that they maintained in order to be loved. Even if now they're broken, this feeling is much better than the pathetic days that they used to live. So as Bongyu burns the flower, he pledges that they're going to kill that version of him that their lover essentially created. In the video, the flower that Bongyu is burning is a white chrysanthemum, and if on the one hand this flower is a symbol of loyalty, devotion and love, in many countries it is also considered the flower of the dead that is used to commemorate the passing of a loved one. Him burning it may be seen as him commemorating the death of that good boy that was loyal to his love story, so fittingly enough, when he throws it away, the camera zooms into his eye to show us the dark side of the bad boy finally coming to the surface. Since we're seeing the eye from the inside of their head, this is a way to show that them killing the good boy is very much a metaphorical death that takes place inside of them rather than in the real world. Considering that Thursday's Child describes a moment of transition between youth and adulthood, this transformation requires a first death for a rebirth to take place. This is also consistent with the Jung philosophy that hype follows in the majority of its concepts, but as symbolic as it is, the effects of this first death are very much evident from the outside as well. When we cut to Yeonjun, for instance, we see him stumbling out of a pawn shop as he punches the ground in a moment of rage. Huninkai destroys the phone booth overcome by anger, Bongyu trashes the teddy bear and sets the picture of the good boy on fire, while Taeyeon steps on the jewelry box as he breaks Havok in the alley. All these solo scenes essentially show us the members being overcome by rage as they raise the image of the good boy to substitute it with the wreck that they've become. In the lyrics, they even compared the bad boy to a zombie born on the tomb of the love that killed them, but even if they're basically the shadow of what they once were, they like this twisted version of themselves because it finally set them free. As I mentioned in my comeback theory, this event can also be compared to the puma breaking the chains all the way back in eternity, and much like the puma was both a predator and a prey, the bad boy is both a monster and a victim. This is a downfall that is also represented in Subin's scene, where we see him in a bathroom punching his reflection as he's slowly overcome by the sweet night of despair that is about to kill him. Now this is a very interesting scene because both the bathtub and the wound on his hand are actually very reminiscent of what we saw back in the Japanese 0x1 love song. Back then, the members were portrayed as fallen angels that experienced their downfall during the end of the world, and as it turns out, this imagery might connect us right back both to the Dream chapter and the Chaos chapter. As I mentioned before, back in Cat and Dog, it was their loved one the one who made them a good boy because it was them who gave them a halo. This is a concept that also came back in 0x1 love song because when the boys sang that they couldn't get into heaven because they didn't belong there, their you was the angel that brought heaven to them. In Loser Lover, their love was so strong that they decided to fly to forever even if their wings were too broken to fly, so now we're seeing the consequences of this downfall, that is, the moment where their angel side is dying and their devil side is being resurrected as a result. My point here is that to a certain extent the boys were always fallen angels, or at the very least they were always destined to become one. When the boys pretended to be the good boy out of love, they were temporarily saved by the light of that angel that brought them to their hometown. As we see in the video, however, the angel's hometown is not the heaven that they expected, but rather a graveyard, in the sense that them following the delusion of paradise led them to their downfall instead. As Taeyeon tells us, their love was a lie, but they loved that lie lie, which is why they wanted to believe it. As they gouge the image of you out of their heart and burn the persona that you created for them, the good boy dies once and for all. Like Tomorrow by Together style director confirmed on Instagram, the members are fallen angels even in this video, because if in Loser Lover we saw the jump, in the Japanese 0x1 we saw the fall, and now we're actually seeing the crash that kills them all. This is an event that is best portrayed with Yeonjun crashing his bike in the tunnel, and even more fittingly, this scene seems to have been inspired by the film Fallen Angels by Wong Kar-wai. This is the same director that made Days of Being Wild, which in turn is the movie that inspired Yeonjun's mambo in 0x1 Love Song. This time around, the reference is even more fitting, because in Fallen Angels, the protagonist is an assassin, and the story actually deals with themes of betrayal and the ending of love. In this instance, Yeonjun's accident is a metaphor for his downfall, because if we look at the plate, that's the good boy who is about to crash and burn. In his verse, Yeonjun actually references the one that he wrote back in Loser Lover, and in the lyrics he admits that he was the one killing that good boy the moment that he decided to fall headfirst with his broken wings. The pain, anger and resentment that he feels are so bad that he's ready to give love to the dogs as he bleeds monochrome diamonds instead of blood. This is a very interesting line, because back in Cat and Dog, their hue actually shined color in their monochrome world. Now the hue is gone and their heart is broken because of that, even their blood has turned into monochrome diamonds, so this breakup not only took the color out of their life, but it literally turned them into the hardest stone that exists. In his last breath, the good Yeonjun says that it doesn't even hurt anymore, so when he falls back and dies, the bad boys give him his final goodbye, as the bad Yeonjun is born again atop of the tomb of his past love. In the first moment of his rebirth, Yeonjun says that he loves being bad, so the good boy of the past is now gone together with the others who died as well. In the final shot of the video, the bad boys leave while the good ones stay dead, so it seems that in the future the bad boys will be the ones moving on to the next chapter. To know how things will play out, we'll have to wait and see, but one thing that you can do is to keep it viral like the video suggests. In the meantime, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please think about liking and subscribing. As always, thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.